Okay, hi guys, welcome to Biology Online with Henny van Vieren. Good morning Year 13s, I hope you guys are really well and that you had a good rest over this weekend. Yep, it seems we're going to be in lockdown for a little bit longer, so yeah, today we need to go further with cultural evolution. So, without further ado, let's get on with that. Okay, so earlier we did have a quick look at hunting a little bit and cave painting and so forth, but not really into any detail. So today we'll go further and specifically look at tools, because tool use is, and also detailed tool use and fine tool use is something that distinguishes us very much from other animals. There are some animals that use very crude tools, such as the chimpanzee, to actually get termites out, and also one of my favorites, if you want to look it up on YouTube, is the sea otter, where they will float on their backs and go get I think they call it a clam or some kind of shellfish, and then they have a rock on their belly and they bang it on there. It's really cute. But anyways, let's get into tool use. Okay, now why is it that we can use tools? Now remember, if you think about the first guy who had a habit of using tools was Homo habilis. Okay, and Homo habilis used very crude tools, but he then figured out that he could actually start bashing rocks until they break, until it actually gives a finer edge. Now, what is allowing us, specifically humans, and as we go further into the Homo genus, is the fact that we can do a precision grip and a power grip. Now, we've learned previously that our longer thumb allows us to manipulate things finely, very fine dexterity, but also we can really grip things very strongly. And the thing that allows us to do that is called the styloid process, and that is this basically elongation of the bone in our wrist. Well, we call these the metacarpals, and these are, wait, those are your carpals, and over here is your metacarpals. It might be the other way around. But anyways, the fact that it can lock into your wrist bones gives you the ability to have a really strong grip there. Okay, so the styloid process, it's only found in humans today, and it allows us this amazing grip. So, first ones. So Homo habilis and Homo ergaster are thought to be the first hominin species to fully utilize tools. And you'll remember that Homo ergaster is the primitive version of Homo erectus. It began with using the flakes of core rocks, normally chert and basalt, and the processed into the production of very specific tools like fishing hooks. And we'll go into that now. But the first one is old. Can you see? Older one. Okay, so the oldest one is older one. And then we're going to go Ashoolian, and then Mousterian, and then Paleolithic. You have to memorize the order of those. Oh, another mindless practice? I don't know. Oh, another masterful play. Something like that. See if you can come up with a good one and send it to me that we can share it with the rest of the class. But the oldest ones are the older ones. Okay, and they are 2.5 to 1.7 million years ago, and this was the work of Homo habilis. So what they do, and if you walk along, especially if you go down to the west coast of the South Island, where they have lots of pebble beaches, and also towards Hawke's Bay, if you walk along pebble beaches or walk along rivers and look for pebbles, you will frequently find pebbles that are broken in such a way that it gives a sharper edge. Now Homo habilis picked up pebbles, and they realized that if they bashed them together and maybe use a bigger pebble or a stronger pebble, they could purposefully make them like this, and they don't have to just go and look for them. So they are definitely not very sophisticated, but this round part sits in your hand, and then they could actually use that to crush open bones after um, the predators are gone, they could get to the bones, and when they opened the bones, inside the bone they found the yummy bone marrow, which is very much, it's high in fat and very um, high in calories, so it was a great way for them to get food. So they are, as again, they're not really sophisticated, normally only worked on one side. In other words, they just chipped away from this one side, not from both sides. The core was used for crushing, while the flakes were used to slice and skin. So this would be the core, and then the flakes would be the pieces that fall off here. Examples found in Olduvia Gorge, and hence the name Alder were worked from basalt pebbles. And we have a lot of basalt in New Zealand as well, so if you want to, you can make some and show me. Examples in Europe were worked from a mineral called chert. I have an example of it here, but I can't find it at the moment. Anyways, the stone tools from this early stage also suggested right-handedness was dominant. Interesting that even as far back as Homo habilis, we already had right-handed and left-handedness. Anyways, then we look at the Ashoolian. Okay, the Ashoolian, it's not what you do when you sneeze, but it's nothing to sneeze at, haha. And they are the typical teardrop shape. Okay, you will only find them in teardrop shape. They're way larger than the next group, but they have now been worked on both sides, and you can see how the Homo erectus would have shaped this. Okay, so it's worked on both sides. It's bifacial, means two faces, so it's a two-face, haha, and nearly always teardrop shaped. Ashoolian tools were used as hand axes, scrapers, and choppers. So you see, you can't really cut too much. You can scrape or you can hand axe. In Europe, flint was the main material used to make them, while elsewhere basalt and mudstone were used. And if you're really lucky in New Zealand, if you find they probably wouldn't have used flint, but obsidian. Because have you guys ever found obsidian out there? I have. Around Taupo there's quite a lot of obsidian and so on. And it's beautiful when you break it open and it's this black glass-like substance. Anyways, some even think that these tools were the first tradable commodity. So if you were a tool maker, you had something that other people wanted, and you can trade for that. So you know what, here's my tool, why don't you give me that dead animal or the hide or whatever. Flint hand axes can be found hundreds of miles from the source of the stone. Okay, that's just in Europe, and that proves that people traded these things and it was used far and wide. And then we get to the Mousterian tools. Okay, became smaller, like a little mouse, and hence Mousterian. So this was from 130,000 to 30,000 years ago, and these were flint tools made by the Neanderthals. Okay, so relatively recent. Now we've been around at the same time as this. So these were the flint tools made by Neanderthals. And basically you take the flint, this is an example of a hand axe, but you can see that it is way more polished, and they use much more finer chipping techniques. Okay, and this is the leveler method of stone napping, they call it, to nap away a small piece. And it's called leveler because this is where they found good examples of this. So you take the larger part, what do they call it here previously, the core. Okay, so you take the core, chip that away, and then you would chip smaller flakes off, and eventually you chip a large flake off the core, and then you have smaller, usable, much sharper things. And you can, if you look here, you can actually see there that they've worked it again. It's not just big chips like in the Ashoolian period. Much finer work. Okay. And then Homo sapiens enters. And remember, Homo sapiens, we have the big brain. And we focused on our big brains, and because we had big brain, we then started to use much finer working skills. And this period is typically typified by the use of materials such as bone and feather. And then you would have these fine stone chips that they could use, and I'll show you an example of that. Now remember the atl, there's an example of the atl, the throwing stick. That is a harpoon for fishing, and you can see they've figured out that they added these barbs, then the fish can't get away. And if you now look at your knives that are made, it's really fine, fine work and fine chipping. They became very much specialized. So previously you would have a hand axe and you would use that for everything. Now you would have a fine blade and you would have a hand axe, and this one is a perforator, so it's almost like an awl where you would first make a hole into your leather, and then with your needle made from bone, and then you can pull your thread through. And we think that some of the threads that they used were plant-based. Think about flax that we have here in New Zealand. They wanted to use flax, well, they actually used flax to make rope in the 1800s here in New Zealand. So yeah, and then javelin obviously for throwing. And then they figured out they could put these things on top of the sticks, and suddenly you have a spear. Now, this is a long spear that was thrust into the animals. I showed you this before, and this is one of the oldest known wooden spear that we have out there. And they also figured out if they take the tip and they put it into the fire for a moment, it will actually harden the tip. Okay, so we talked about the atl, throwing sticks. I showed you this video, and then we came to hunting and so forth. So that's where we're going to stop it for today. Just quickly again, older one worked only on one side and very primitive. Ashoolian, teardrop shaped, worked on both sides, and we get to the Mousterian by the Neanderthals and the hand axe shape and much finer work. And then lastly, the Paleolithic. So, I hope that makes sense. I will chat to you again very soon. Thank you. Bye.